The alarm screamed through the Galactic Council chambers like a dying animal. Ambassador Velnara felt her 3 hearts skip in unison as the emergency lights bathed everything in red. Around the circular room, representatives from 40 different species rose from their seats, voices rising in confusion and fear. Silence, the council speaker's voice boomed through the translation devices. We have a breach. Velnara's scaled hands gripped the edge of her console. A breach? That word hadn't been used in 500 years. There was only one thing in the galaxy important enough to trigger this level of alert. The barrier around Sol system has been compromised, the speaker continued. His face, usually calm and composed, showed genuine terror. The humans are out. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for evacuation protocols. Velnara just sat there frozen as memories flooded back. She had been young when they first made contact with Earth. The humans had seemed so promising at first. Creative, curious, full of potential, but then everything went wrong. The humans didn't understand diplomacy the way civilized species did. They were aggressive, unpredictable, and worst of all, they learned too quickly. The trade disputes turned into border conflicts. Border conflicts became small wars. Small wars threatened to consume entire sectors. And through it all, the humans kept adapting, kept building, kept fighting with a ferocity that terrified every species that encountered them. Fleet Admiral Cross had proposed the solution: a containment field around their entire solar system. Energy barriers that nothing could pass through. Lock them in, let them burn themselves out, and forget they ever existed. The Council had agreed unanimously. That was 500 years ago. How did they break through? Someone shouted. The speaker activated the main display. The image showed the Sol system barrier, a shimmering sphere of energy that had contained humanity for half a millennium. But now there were gaps, clean, precise holes cut through technology that was supposed to be impenetrable. They didn't break through, said a quiet voice. Dr. Thesson, the Corvalli xenopsychologist, stood at his console. They cut through it. From the inside. Look at the precision of those openings. They understood our technology well enough to dismantle it. Velnara felt cold. That should have been impossible. The barrier used quantum-locked dimensional physics. It had taken the combined knowledge of 20 species to create it. How could the humans, locked away with only their own resources, have figured it out? There's more, the speaker said grimly. He changed the display. Now it showed a fleet. Dozens of ships, sleek and dark, arranged in perfect formation just outside the barrier. The designs were unlike anything in Council records. Smooth organic curves mixed with sharp geometric angles. They looked fast. They looked dangerous. They're broadcasting a message, the communication officer announced. It's in all Council languages. Perfect translations. Play it, Velnara said. Her voice came out as a whisper. Static filled the chamber for a moment. Then a human voice, calm and clear, spoke words that made Velnara's blood run cold. This is the United Earth Space Fleet to the Galactic Council. We'd like to talk. Again. The chamber fell silent. The implications crashed over everyone like a wave. The humans hadn't just survived their imprisonment. They had thrived. They had advanced. They had become something that could challenge the barrier itself. How many ships? Admiral Cross demanded. The old Drunian warrior had come out of retirement for this emergency session. His scales, once bright blue, had faded to gray, but his eyes still held the sharpness of a predator. Our sensors detect 53 vessels, the tactical officer reported. But Admiral, there's something wrong with the readings. The energy signatures don't make sense. Each ship is generating power equivalent to a small star. Cross's face darkened. That's impossible. Their technology was barely capable of fusion reactors when we sealed them away. 500 years is a long time, Dr. Thesson said softly. Humans have always been exceptional learners. We gave them the greatest teacher of all, desperation. Velnara stood. We need to respond. But how? Do we fight? Do we negotiate? We destroy them before they spread, someone shouted from the back. It was Representative Karn, a Zathari militant. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. We can end this now, can we? Dr. Thesson asked. Look at those ships. Really look at them. Does anyone here understand the technology we're seeing? Because I don't, and I've studied human psychology for my entire life. I know one thing about them. They don't show you their hand unless they're certain they've won. The chamber filled with nervous whispers. The council had grown comfortable in 5 centuries. They had expanded, prospered, and almost forgotten about the dangerous species they'd locked away. Now that species was knocking on the door, politely asking to be let back in. "We should send a diplomatic team," Velnara said finally. "If they wanted to attack, they would have done so already. They're giving us a choice." "A choice?" Karn snarled. "They're prisoners who broke out of jail. We imprisoned them for being too good at war," Velnara shot back. "Now they're offering to talk instead of fight. Maybe we should be grateful." Admiral Cross cleared his throat. "I'll go. I was there at the beginning. I should be there now." "As will I," Dr. Thesson added. Velnara took a deep breath. "Then I'll lead the delegation. It was my grandfather who cast the final vote for containment. My family owes them this much." The speaker nodded slowly. "Very well. But the fleet will be ready. If this is a trap, we respond with overwhelming force." 3 hours later, Velnara stood in the shuttle bay preparing to cross the empty space between the council station and the human fleet. Cross and Thesson stood beside her, both looking far less confident than they had in the chamber. "What do you think we'll find?" Thesson asked quietly. "I don't know," Velnara admitted, "but I keep thinking about something my grandfather told me before he died. He said the humans scared him not because they were violent, but because they never gave up. Ever. On anything." "That's what worries me," Cross said. "We gave them 500 years to think about what we did to them. 500 years to plan, to prepare, to hate us." The shuttle departed, carrying them toward the human flagship. As they approached, Velnara could see details that the long-range sensors had missed. The hull wasn't metal or any material she recognized. It seemed to shift and shimmer, almost alive. Weapons ports lined every surface, but they were closed, dormant. A name was printed on the side in multiple languages, including several council scripts. "Perseverance." "They named their ship Perseverance," Thesson murmured. "Not vengeance. Not victory. Perseverance. Maybe that tells us everything we need to know," Velnara said, trying to convince herself. "Or maybe it tells us nothing at all." The shuttle docked with a soft hiss. The airlock opened. Beyond it, a corridor stretched into the human ship, lit with soft blue light. At the far end, figures waited. Humans, waiting patiently after 500 years of imprisonment. Velnara stepped forward, her heart's pounding. Whatever happened next would change the galaxy forever. She just hoped they would all survive to see it. The humans didn't speak. They simply gestured for the delegation to follow. And deep in the restricted zone they'd just escaped, Earth continued its orbit, a prison that had become a forge, turning frightened survivors into something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that scared Velnara more than anything else. Humans with patience. The corridors of the Perseverance were nothing like Velnara expected. She had imagined cold metal and harsh lighting, the aesthetics of a military vessel built by a desperate, angry civilization. Instead, the walls seemed to pulse with gentle bioluminescence. The floor absorbed the sound of their footsteps. Everything felt organic, alive, yet clearly technological in ways that made her head hurt trying to understand. Their human escorts walked in perfect silence. There were 4 of them, wearing uniforms that seemed to shift colors slightly as they moved. None of them carried visible weapons, but Velnara noticed the way they moved. Efficient, precise, like dancers or predators. She couldn't decide which comparison frightened her more. Admiral Cross leaned close to her. "Notice their breathing," he whispered. "Too steady. Too controlled. I think they've modified themselves." Dr. Thesson nodded. "The neural patterns I'm reading are unusual. There's definitely artificial enhancement, but it's seamlessly integrated. I can barely tell where the biological ends and the technological begins." They entered a large chamber that took Velnara's breath away. One entire wall was transparent, showing the stars beyond. Earth hung in the distance, a blue and white marble that looked peaceful and beautiful. Not the prison planet she'd imagined. "Welcome aboard the Perseverance," a voice said. A human woman stepped forward from the shadows. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back from a face that was neither young nor old. Her eyes were the most striking feature. They were human, warm and brown, but there was something else there. A depth, an intelligence that seemed to process everything at once. "I'm Ambassador Sarah Chen. Thank you for coming." Velnara found her voice. "Ambassador Velnara of the Zathari. This is Admiral Cross and Dr. Thesson. We represent the Galactic Council. The same council that imprisoned my species for 5 centuries. Chen's voice held no anger, just statement of fact. Please sit. We have much to discuss. They sat at a curved table that seemed to grow from the floor. Chen remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back. Before we begin negotiations, I think you deserve to understand what you're negotiating with, Chen said. You locked us in this system 500 years ago. You expected us to destroy ourselves or stagnate. Instead, something else happened. She gestured, and the transparent wall changed. Images flowed across it. Cities on Earth, but not like the chaotic urban sprawls from 5 centuries ago. These were vertical forests. Buildings that touched the clouds while plants grew on every surface. Oceans dotted with floating structures. The entire planet looked like a garden. The first century was dark, Chen admitted. You were right to fear us. We were violent, divided, we nearly did destroy ourselves. Nuclear wars. Biological weapons. Climate collapse. We came very close to extinction. The images shifted. Ruined cities. Wastelands. Velnara saw human faces, starving, desperate. But then something changed. We realized that fighting each other was pointless. The real enemy was the barrier. The real challenge was survival. So we did what humans do best. We adapted new images. Humans working together. Scientists from different nations sharing research. Soldiers becoming builders. Politicians becoming servants. We formed a unified government. Not through conquest, but through necessity. We couldn't afford nationalism anymore. We couldn't afford war. So we chose peace. Not because we became less capable of violence, but because we became smart enough to use that capability only when necessary. Chen walked to the window, looking out at Earth. We colonized Mars within a century, then Venus, then the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. We built habitats in the asteroid belt. We learned to mine comets. Your barrier became the walls of our nursery and we filled it completely. Impossible, Cross muttered. The resources alone. We learned efficiency you couldn't imagine, Admiral, Chen interrupted. We had to. We recycled everything. Waste became resources. Energy became abundant through fusion, then through quantum taps. We built AIs to help us think. We modified our own biology to survive in harsh environments. We had 500 years and an entire solar system. We used every second and every atom. Dr. Thesson leaned forward. The barrier. How did you break through? Chen smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile, but it wasn't entirely warm either. We didn't break it, Doctor. We studied it. For 300 years, we sent probes to examine every centimeter. We measured every fluctuation. We learned physics you never taught us because we had to. The barrier was the most sophisticated piece of technology we'd ever encountered. It became our university. She touched a control and complex equations filled the air. Velnara recognized some of it. Quantum field theory. Dimensional mathematics, but most of it was beyond her. We figured out how it worked 70 years ago, Chen said casually. We could have left then. But we didn't. Why not? Velnara asked, dreading the answer. Because we weren't ready, Chen said. Not technologically. Technologically. We surpassed most of your member species 2 centuries ago. No, we weren't ready socially, psychologically. We needed to be certain that when we rejoined the galaxy, we wouldn't become the monsters you feared. She turned to face them fully. We spent 70 years preparing for this moment. We ran simulations. Millions of them. We studied every scenario. We learned patience. We learned restraint. We learned that power without wisdom is just another form of suicide. But you're still dangerous, Cross said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Chen agreed. We're very dangerous. But so is a surgeon with a scalpel. So is a firefighter with an axe. Dangerous doesn't mean evil, Admiral. It means capable. Captain Marcus Rivera entered the room. He was shorter than Chen, built like a fighter, with scars visible on his neck. His eyes had the same enhanced quality as Chen's, but his carried something harder. This was a man who had seen combat. Ambassador, the Council fleet is moving into defensive positions, he reported. 20 dreadnoughts. They're trying to box us in. Chen nodded. Expected. They're scared. Let them position themselves. We're not here to fight. She looked back at the Council delegation. We want a seat at the Council table. Full membership. Complete sovereignty. And in exchange, we'll share some of our technology. Not all of it. Not the weapons, but medical advances, energy production, environmental restoration, things that will help everyone. The council will never agree, Velnara said. You're asking us to welcome our jailer's nightmares into our home. We're asking you to see us as we are, not as we were, Chen corrected. But we don't need your agreement. That's what you need to understand. We have faster-than-light drives now. We've had them for 40 years. We could leave this sector entirely. Find new worlds. Build our own empire. We don't need the Galactic Council. Then why are you here? Thesson asked. Chen's expression softened slightly. Because isolation taught us something important, Doctor. No species survives alone. Not forever. The universe is too big, too dangerous, too full of unknowns. We could go our own way, but we'd just be repeating the cycle. Eventually, we'd encounter someone or something we couldn't handle alone. Better to build bridges now than walls later. She pulled up another display. This time it showed the galaxy, with markers highlighting council space and the zones beyond. We've been sending stealth probes for 30 years, Chen said, mapping the galaxy, learning about our neighbors. And we've found things, dangerous things moving in the dark spaces between stars, things that make our old conflicts look like children fighting over toys. Velnara felt ice in her blood. What things? Later, Chen said. First, we need to establish trust. Admiral Cross, I'm giving you complete access to our public databases. Medical technology, agricultural advances, renewable energy. Free. No strings. Consider it a gift. Cross looked suspicious. Why? Because actions speak louder than words, Chen said simply. And because people are dying in your frontier colonies from diseases we cured 200 years ago. We have the cure. Keeping it from you would make us the monsters you fear. Rivera stepped forward, handing Cross a data crystal. Everything's here, sir. Open source. Use it however you want, Velnara stood. The council needs time to consider your proposal. Of course, Chen agreed. Take all the time you need. We've waited 500 years. We can wait a bit longer. But Ambassador Velnara, one more thing. Yes? Chen's eyes hardened slightly. While your council debates, keep your military on a short leash. We don't want to fight you, but if you attack us, you'll discover that 500 years of isolation made us very, very good at war. We'd rather be your allies. Don't force us to be your enemies. The meeting ended. As they returned to their shuttle, none of the council delegation spoke. They were each processing what they'd learned. Humanity hadn't just survived. They'd evolved into something new, something powerful, something that scared Velnara because she couldn't predict what they'd do next. As the shuttle departed, Dr. Thesson finally broke the silence. They're not the same species we locked away. No, Velnara agreed. We created something much worse. We created patient, intelligent, unified humans with technology that rivals our best, and now they're knocking politely when they could kick down the door. Admiral Cross held the data crystal up to the light. Maybe that's the point. They want us to know they could destroy us, but they're choosing not to. It's a message. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 6 hours, and it was getting worse by the minute. Velnara watched as another fistfight nearly broke out between the Corvalli and Drunian representatives. Security separated them before any real damage was done, but the tension in the chamber was thick enough to cut. Order! The speaker slammed his staff against the floor. We are the Galactic Council, not a street gang. Act like it. Representative Karn stood, his Zathari scales bristling with aggression. We're debating while an existential threat sits on our doorstep. The humans have shown us that they're more advanced than we thought. They've admitted they've been spying on us, and somehow we're considering giving them a seat at this table. Madness. They've also given us medical technology that will save billions of lives. Doctor, Thesson countered. He held up a datapad. I've had my team analyzing the data crystal. It's legitimate. Cures for the Corvalli plague, solutions to Drunian genetic degradation, energy systems that could power entire worlds without pollution. They gave this to us freely. A bribe, Karn spat. They're buying our cooperation. Or demonstrating good faith, Velnara said. She was tired. She'd barely slept since returning from the Perseverance. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ambassador Chen's calm, knowing face. They could have kept their technology secret, used it as leverage. Instead, they shared it immediately. Admiral Cross stood slowly. His age showed more today than it had yesterday. I have new intelligence to share. It's not good. The chamber quieted. Cross activated his console and a star map appeared. Red dots marked positions throughout Council space. For the past 3 weeks, we've been detecting anomalous sensor readings in the outer territories. We dismissed them as equipment malfunctions or natural phenomena. We were wrong. He zoomed in on one sector. These are human monitoring stations, stealth satellites. They've been watching us for years. The chamber erupted again. Shouts of betrayal. Demands for military action. But wait, Cross continued, his voice cutting through the noise. There's more. Look at where they positioned these stations. The map shifted. The red dots formed a pattern. They weren't watching Council core worlds or military installations. They were all focused on the frontier, the empty spaces beyond Council territory. They're not spying on us, Cross said slowly. They're watching for something else, something coming from outside our space. Velnara felt cold. She remembered Chen's words about dangerous things in the dark spaces between stars. I contacted Ambassador Chen about this, Cross continued. She confirmed it. She also shared something else. He pulled up a new image. It showed a massive organic structure, like a hive or coral reef, but the size of a moon. This is what they've been tracking. They call it a devourer hive ship. The image shifted to show video. The hive ship approached a planet. Smaller organisms, each the size of a frigate, detached and descended to the surface. Within hours, the planet's surface was stripped. No life remained, no resources, just a gray, dead ball of rock. This was recorded by a human probe 4 weeks ago, Cross said. The planet was a Council mining colony. Population, 40,000. There were no survivors. The chamber fell silent. Velnara felt her 3 hearts racing. 4 weeks ago? Why, weren't we informed? Because the colony didn't send a distress signal, Cross said grimly. They were dead before they knew what hit them. The humans detected it through their monitoring network. They've been tracking this species for 6 months. There are dozens of hive ships, maybe hundreds, and they're all heading toward Council space. Why didn't the humans warn us? Someone shouted. They tried, Cross said. 3 months ago, they sent an encoded message to our frontier outposts. We dismissed it as spam from an unknown source. They tried twice more. We ignored them both times. Velnara closed her eyes. They'd been so focused on the human threat that they'd missed a real one. How long do we have? The speaker asked. The leading edge of the devourer swarm will reach our outer colonies in 2 weeks, Cross said. Based on their consumption rate and the human projections, they'll reach core Council worlds in 6 months. Maybe less if they accelerate. Representative Karn stood again. Then we mobilize the fleet. All of it. We stop them at the frontier. With respect, Representative, I don't think we can, Cross said. The human analysis includes tactical assessments. These creatures adapt incredibly fast. They learn from each encounter. They're a hive mind with billions of individual units. We'd be fighting an enemy that gets smarter every time we shoot at it. So what do we do? Someone asked. Surrender? Run? We ask the humans for help, Doctor, Thesson said quietly. That's what this has all been about. They could have left, could have abandoned us to our fate, but they came back. They tried to warn us. They're offering partnership. At the cost of our sovereignty, Karn argued. Better than the cost of our extinction, Velnara said. She stood facing the chamber. I've been thinking about this since we returned from the Perseverance. The humans aren't asking to rule us. They're asking to join us. There's a difference. They're stronger than us now, Karn said. If we give them a seat at this table, they'll dominate. They'll turn us into vassals. Maybe, Velnara admitted. Or maybe they've learned something we haven't. Maybe 500 years of forced cooperation taught them that strength isn't the same as dominance. Maybe we should learn from them instead of fearing them. Her communicator buzzed. It was a priority message. She opened it and felt her blood run cold. It's from Ambassador Chen, she said aloud. She's requesting an immediate meeting. Says it's urgent. It's a trap, Karn insisted. Then I'll spring it, Velnara said. Because sitting here arguing while people die is worse than any trap the humans could set. 3 hours later, Velnara was back aboard the Perseverance. This time, Chen met her alone in a smaller conference room. The human ambassador looked tired. Actually tired. Not the perfect composed diplomat from before. This was someone who'd been working around the clock. "Thank you for coming quickly," Chen said. "We don't have much time." She pulled up a tactical display. It showed Council space, with dozens of red markers moving through it like a spreading infection. "The Devourers have accelerated. Something attracted their attention. Maybe your fleet movements. Maybe just our presence. But they're coming faster than we predicted. Your frontier colonies have maybe a week, possibly less." "Admiral Cross told us," Velnara said. "Why didn't you force us to listen? You could have broadcasted the evidence across all channels." "Would you have believed us?" Chen asked. "Or would you have thought it was a trick to make you weaker? We're the species you imprisoned for being too dangerous. Anything we said would be viewed with suspicion." She was right, and Velnara knew it. "I need to ask you something honestly," Chen continued. "Does the Council want our help? Really want it? Because if we commit to this fight, we're all in. We'll lose ships, we'll lose lives, human lives, to protect people who locked our grandparents in a cage." "Why would you do that?" Velnara asked. Chen smiled sadly. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because we're not our grandparents, angry and looking for revenge. We're their children's children's children. And we remember the lessons but not the hate. Because if we let the Devourers consume you without fighting, we'd be no better than you feared we were." Velnara felt something break inside her. Pride, maybe, or prejudice. "I can't speak for the whole Council, but I can speak for myself. Yes, we need your help, please." "Then we'll give it," Chen said simply. "But there's a cost." "I thought you said there were no strings." "This is different. We're not asking for payment. We're asking for cooperation. The Devourers are a hive mind. They communicate and coordinate perfectly. The only way to fight them is to do the same. That means Council fleets need to accept human command structures, human tactics, human orders." Velnara understood. Chen wasn't asking for a seat at the table. She was asking for the keys to the kingdom. "The Council will never agree," Velnara said. "Then the Council will die," Chen said flatly. "I'm sorry to be blunt, but we've run the simulations. Thousands of them. Without unified command, you lose. It's mathematics. It's probability. It's reality. And with unified command, we have a chance. Maybe 40%. 60 if we get lucky, and they haven't adapted as much as we think. 40%. Better than zero, Velnara supposed. "There's something else," Chen said. "The Council has been hiding something. Your monitoring stations detected unusual signals 6 months ago from beyond charted space. Signals that suggested massive energy consumption. Your intelligence services classified it as top secret. You knew something was wrong but did nothing." Velnara felt sick. "How do you know that?" "Because we're very good at what we do," Chen said. "And because your security, while decent, was designed to stop internal threats, not external ones." "Are you threatening us?" "No," Chen said. "I'm telling you that secrets get people killed. The Council knew something was wrong and chose politics over safety. That stops now. If we're going to survive this, we need complete transparency. All intelligence shared. All resources pooled. All species working as one." She pulled up one more image. It showed Captain Rivera in what looked like a command center. Around him, officers from multiple species worked at consoles. The colony of New Valara died in 17 minutes. Admiral Cross watched the tactical feed from the safety of his flagship, thousands of light years away, and felt his heart break. The Devourer swarm descended on the planet like a living shadow. Millions of them. Billions, maybe. Each one the size of a ground car moving with perfect coordination. The colony defense forces fought. They died fighting. Their ships, their stations, their planetary shields. All of it meaningless. The Devourers simply absorbed the energy weapons, adapted, and kept coming. Kinetic weapons worked better, but not well enough. Not nearly enough. When it was over, New Valara was a brown, dead rock. 30 million people gone, just gone. Not even bodies left behind. Get me a connection to the council, Cross said quietly. His communications officer nodded, hands shaking as he worked. Around the command center, his crew worked in silence. Most of them were crying. They'd just watched billions of lives erased, and there was nothing they could have done to stop it. The council speaker appeared on the screen. He looked old, ancient. Admiral? New Valara is gone, Cross said. Total loss. They hit 3 other colonies simultaneously. Combined casualties estimated at 70 million. And they're not slowing down. The speaker closed his eyes. The fleets? Positioned at the Corvus line. All remaining frontier forces have fallen back. We're preparing for a last stand, but Speaker, I need you to understand something. We can't win this. Not with what we have. Not with how we fight. You're saying we need the humans. I'm saying we need a miracle, and the humans are the closest thing we have to one. The speaker was silent for a long moment. Representative Karn is organizing a vote of no confidence in my leadership. He's arguing that accepting human help is the same as surrender. Half the council agrees with him. Cross felt rage building in his chest. Then half the council is insane. While they play politics, species are dying. I know, the speaker said tiredly. Ambassador Velnara has been working to change minds, but it's slow. Too slow. We don't have slow, Cross snapped. We have days. Maybe hours, a proximity alarm screamed. Cross turned to his tactical officer. Contact. Multiple Devourer signatures emerging from quantum space. Distance, 6,000 kilometers and closing. Count is over 10,000 individual units. Cross felt ice in his veins. They'd found the fleet. Somehow they'd tracked them through quantum space and jumped ahead of them. All ships, battle stations. Launch all fighters. Prepare for... Belay that order. The voice came from his communication system. It was familiar. Human. Captain Rivera appeared on every screen in the command center. Behind him, Cross could see a battle bridge alive with activity. Admiral Cross, this is Captain Rivera of the Perseverance. We've been monitoring your position. You're about to be ambushed by a Devourer strike force. You need to move your fleet immediately. This is a council military channel, Cross said. Does it matter right now? Rivera interrupted. You have about 90 seconds before they're in weapons range. Listen to me very carefully. You need to jump to these coordinates. A stream of navigation data flooded Cross's systems. Your quantum drives can make it barely, but you need to go now. Cross looked at his tactical display. The Devourer swarm was accelerating. They'd be in firing range in less than 2 minutes. His ships weren't ready. Half of them were running maintenance cycles. They'd be slaughtered. How do I know this isn't a trap? Cross asked. You don't, Rivera said. But in about 80 seconds, you'll know if I'm telling the truth or not. Choose fast, Admiral. Cross made the decision. All ships emergency jump to transmitted coordinates. Execute now. The fleet vanished in bursts of quantum energy. Cross's flagship was the last to jump. As the quantum field enveloped his ship, he saw the space where they'd been filled with Devourer organisms. Rivera had been right. They emerged at the new coordinates. Cross immediately scanned for threats, nothing. Just empty space near a red dwarf star. Captain Rivera, we're clear. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Rivera said. His image was joined by Ambassador Chen. Admiral, you need to see something, Chen said. She transmitted a star map. It showed the Devourer swarm's movements over the past week. Not random at all. It was a pattern. A strategy. They were herding the council fleets, pushing them into kill zones. They're hunting us, Cross said slowly. They're hunting everyone, Chen corrected. But yes, they've identified your command structure. They know that killing fleet admirals disrupts your coordination. They're targeting leadership. How can you possibly know that? Because we've been fighting them for 3 weeks, Rivera said. Small engagements, probing attacks, testing their tactics. They're learning from us, but we're learning from them too. Chen leaned forward. Admiral, the council needs to make a decision. Right now. We can help you. We want to help you, but only if you let us. Otherwise, we're evacuating our people and leaving council space. Running? Cross felt betrayed. Surviving, Chen corrected. We owe you nothing, Admiral. You imprisoned us. You ignored our warnings. You're dying because of your own choices. But we're still offering to help because it's the right thing to do. However, we won't sacrifice human lives for a council that refuses to work with us. Cross understood. It was an ultimatum. Accept help or accept extinction. I don't have the authority to— Then get it, Chen said. You're a war hero, Admiral. You have influence, use it. Convince the Council that pride is less important than survival. The transmission ended. Cross stood alone in his command center, surrounded by officers waiting for orders. He thought about New Valara, about the other colonies, about the billions of lives already lost and the trillions more that would follow. He opened a channel to the Council speaker. I need to address the full Council. Emergency session. Now. 2 hours later, Admiral Cross stood before the Galactic Council. He'd removed his medals. He'd removed his rank insignia. He stood as just another person, pleading for his species to see reason. I've served the Council for 70 years, he began. I've fought in 12 wars. I've commanded fleets that conquered star systems. I thought I'd seen everything. I was wrong. He activated a hologram. Images of New Valara's death played in the center of the chamber. Representatives turned away. Some wept openly. This is what we're facing. This is what pride costs. And I'm telling you now, with everything I've learned in 70 years of service, we cannot win alone. Representative Karn stood. You're advocating surrender to the humans. I'm advocating survival, Cross shot back. The humans aren't our enemy. They never were. We made them our enemy because we were afraid. Well, I'm more afraid of those. He pointed at the images of the Devourers, and I'm willing to swallow my pride to stop them. You're a traitor, Karn spat. I'm a realist, Cross said. And here's reality. In the time we've been talking, 2 more colonies have gone silent. That's 6 million more lives. How many more need to die before we admit we need help? Velnara stood. Admiral Cross is right. I've met the humans. I've seen their technology. I've heard their offer. They don't want to rule us. They want to fight alongside us. There's a difference. How do we know that? Someone shouted. Because if they wanted to conquer us, they could have already, Dr. Thesson said, standing beside Velnara. They're more advanced than we realized. Their fleet could probably destroy ours, but they're asking nicely instead. That should tell you everything. The debate raged for another hour. Representatives shouted. Factions formed and reformed, but slowly, gradually, the tide turned. More and more council members began to see what Cross, Velnara, and Thesson already knew. They had no choice. Finally, the speaker called for a vote. All in favor of accepting human military assistance under unified command structure? The vote was close. Very close. But it passed. Cross felt relief wash over him. Then his communicator buzzed. It was his flagship. Admiral, we're detecting massive quantum signatures. The Devourers are jumping into this system. Thousands of them. They tracked us somehow. Cross's blood ran cold. The Council's main fleet was scattered, unprepared. They'd be slaughtered. Then space lit up with new quantum signatures. Human ships. Dozens of them. The Perseverance led the formation, with Captain Rivera's voice broadcasting on all frequencies. Council fleet, this is Captain Rivera. We're here to help. All ships follow our lead and engage defensive pattern Theta 7. Cross watched as human ships positioned themselves between the Council fleet and the incoming Devourers. They moved with precision that took his breath away. Perfect formation. Perfect timing, the Devourers attacked. The humans responded with weapons Cross had never seen. Directed energy beams that actually hurt the Devourers. Kinetic weapons that adapted mid-flight. Drone swarms that matched the Devourers' coordination. But it wasn't enough. There were too many Devourers. The human ships started taking damage. One exploded. Then another. All Council ships, Cross broadcast. Engage the enemy. Follow human tactical commands. For the survival of us all. The Council fleet joined the battle. For the first time, humans and aliens fought side by side. It was chaotic at first. Council ships weren't used to human tactics. But Rivera coordinated everything, his voice calm and clear, directing ships like pieces on a board. They fought for 6 hours. By the end, a third of the human fleet was destroyed or damaged. The Battle of Terminus Gate would be remembered as the moment everything changed, not just for the war against the Devourers, but for the entire galaxy. Ambassador Velnara stood in the Combined Fleet Command Center aboard the Perseverance, watching 1,000 screens showing 1,000 different battles. Human officers worked alongside Corvalli technicians. Drunian engineers collaborated with Zathari weapons specialists. Species that had barely tolerated each other for centuries now shared consoles, shared meals, shared purpose. Status? Captain Rivera called out. He stood at the central command platform, coordinating the largest military force ever assembled in Council space. 2,000 ships from 40 species all moving as one. Sector 7 is holding, a Corvalli officer reported. The Devourers are trying to flank, but the human fighters are keeping them contained. Sector 12 is buckling, a human tactical officer said. Zathari heavy cruisers requesting support. Rivera didn't hesitate. Deploy Reserve Wing 3. Have them coordinate with Zathari Command. Use attack pattern Delta 9. Velnara watched with amazement. 6 weeks ago this would have been impossible. Different species with different tactics, different communication protocols, different ideas about honor and warfare. Rivera had somehow turned chaos into symphony. The Devourer main swarm had arrived 3 days ago, the largest concentration anyone had ever seen. Hundreds of hive ships, each spawning millions of individual organisms. They'd come to consume the Council's core worlds, to strip 3 inhabited star systems of all life. The combined human Council fleet had met them at Terminus Gate, a strategic choke point where 3 major trade routes converged. It was the perfect place for a last stand. Ambassador Chen appeared beside Velnara. The human looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy knot, but her eyes were still sharp. How long can we hold? Velnara asked. Honestly, I don't know, Chen admitted. We're adapting faster than they expected, but they're adapting too. Every time we find a weakness, they close it within hours. We're in an arms race measured in minutes. An alarm screamed. Rivera's head snapped up. What now? Massive energy signature, the tactical officer reported. Coming from the center of the Devourer formation. It's... Admiral, I've never seen anything like this. On the main display, something emerged from the swarm. It was enormous. A hive ship 10 times larger than any they'd encountered. Its surface writhed with activity. As they watched, it opened what looked like a mouth, revealing an interior that glowed with horrible light. Energy readings are off the scale, a Drunian scientist said, voice shaking. That thing is generating more power than our largest star. What's it doing? Rivera demanded. I think it's preparing to fire, the scientist said. Target appears to be the planet Corvus Prime. Velnara felt her heart stop. Corvus Prime. Population 16 billion. The Council's second most populated world. How long do we have? Rivera asked. 30 minutes. Maybe less. Rivera turned to face the command center. Every species represented there looked to him. Waiting for orders. Trusting him. All right, Rivera said calmly. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to kill that thing. How? Admiral Cross asked. The old Drunian had taken position at a secondary command station. Our weapons barely scratch the smaller hive ships. That thing is a fortress. Then we don't scratch it, Rivera said. We break it open from the inside. He pulled up a tactical display. Chen, tell them about the Harbinger Protocol. Chen stepped forward. For a moment, she hesitated. When she spoke, her voice was heavy. The Harbinger Protocol is our last resort weapon, something we developed but hoped never to use. It weaponizes stars. The command center went silent. You can do that? Someone whispered. We can, Chen said. We take a star on the verge of going supernova, and we trigger it early. Then we direct the gamma ray burst using massive gravity projectors. It's a weapon that can sterilize entire systems. That's genocide-level weaponry, Cross said. Yes, Chen agreed. Which is why we never told you about it. Why we'd never use it except against an enemy that threatens all life. An enemy like the Devourers. She pulled up astronomical data. There's a dying star 17 light-years from here. We can trigger it. We can direct the burst, but we need time. 3 hours minimum to position the gravity projectors, and we need the Devourers to stay in one place. They won't, Rivera said. That superhive ship is mobile. After it destroys Corvus Prime, it'll move on to the next target. Unless... He looked at Velnara. Unless we give them something they want more than any planet. Velnara understood immediately. You want to bait them. I want to make them so angry they forget about being smart, Rivera said. We hurt them. We hurt them bad enough that they want revenge more than they want food. We make it personal. How do you make a hive mind angry? Cross asked. We kill the queen, Rivera said. He pointed at the super hive ship. That's not just a weapon. That's their command node, their central intelligence. We put a strike team inside that thing and we destroy its core. They'll feel it. All of them. And they'll chase us. A suicide mission, someone said. Maybe, Rivera admitted. But it's the only chance we have. Velnara stepped forward. I'll go. You're a diplomat, Rivera said. I'm also someone who helped put humans in a cage, Velnara said. You're sacrificing human lives to save us. The least I can do is risk mine too. Dr. Thesson stood. I'll go as well. My expertise in xenobiology might be useful. Others volunteered. Corvalli soldiers, Drunian Marines, Zathari commandos, species that had been enemies becoming brothers in arms. Rivera selected 20 individuals. 10 humans, 10 council soldiers. We leave in 10 minutes. Chen, start positioning the gravity projectors. Cross, you have tactical command of the fleet while I'm gone. You're going? Chen asked. It's my plan, Rivera said simply. I won't ask others to do something I won't do myself. Chen grabbed his arm. For a moment, the professional mask slipped. She looked afraid. Marcus, I know, he said softly. But this is what we trained for, what we became. The strike team assembled in the launch bay. The craft they'd use was a hybrid design, human stealth technology with council defensive systems. The best of both civilizations in one small, fast ship. Velnara checked her equipment one last time. A human soldier helped her adjust the armor. It felt strange. 6 weeks ago, she'd feared these people. Now one was making sure she'd survive the mission. First time in combat? The human asked. Her name tag read Martinez. Yes, Velnara admitted. Scared? Terrified. Martinez smiled. Good, fear keeps you sharp. Just stay close to me and do what Captain says. We'll get through this. The ship launched. They flew through the chaos of battle, dodging devourer organisms and friendly fire alike. Rivera piloted with inhuman precision. Velnara realized his cybernetic enhancements made him part of the ship itself. They approached the superhive ship. Up close, it was even more terrifying. The surface moved like it was breathing. Organisms the size of buildings crawled across its hull. Cutting through outer membrane now, Rivera said. The ship's weapons carved a hole in the living ship. They dove through into darkness. Inside was a nightmare. Organic tunnels that pulsed and writhed. The air was toxic. The temperature was barely survivable. They moved through corridors that seemed to grow and change around them. They fought. Devourer organisms attacked in waves. The team responded with coordinated fire. Human weapons and council tactics merged into something new, something effective. They lost 3 people in the first 10 minutes. A Corvalli engineer, 2 human Marines, but they kept moving. Core is ahead, Dr. Thesson said, reading his scanner. Massive bioelectric signature. They emerged into a chamber the size of a stadium. At its center, something enormous pulsed with sickly light. The Queen, the heart of the hive ship. Plant the charges, Rivera ordered. They worked quickly. Explosives on the organic supports. Overload charges on the bioelectric nodes. Everything they had. Then the Queen noticed them. Velnara felt it in her mind. Rage. Hunger. Ancient alien intelligence that saw them as food and threat and annoyance all at once. Organisms poured into the chamber. Charges set. Martinez shouted. 30 seconds to detonation. Everyone out. Rivera commanded. They ran. Behind them, the devourers gave chase. The walls seemed to close in, trying to trap them. They fought through. Lost more people. A Drunian soldier stayed behind to hold a position. A human medic died protecting a wounded Zathari. They reached their ship. Launched. Behind them, the charges detonated. The superhive ship screamed. Actually screamed. A sound that transmitted through quantum fields and could be heard across the entire battlefield. The Queen died. And with her death, something changed. The devourers stopped their organized assault. They turned. All of them. They focused on the strike team's ship with single-minded fury. It worked, Rivera said. They're mad. Chen, are you in position? Chen's voice came through. Professional, despite the fear underneath. Gravity projectors online, triggering the star now. You have 1 hour to get clear of the blast zone. The strike team's ship raced back toward the fleet. Behind them, 1 million devourer organisms gave chase. The superhive ship, wounded but not dead, followed. The combined fleet fought a running battle, pulling the devourers away from populated worlds.